Hey everyone, welcome to Jamie Riddler Studios. I'm Jamie, and today I'm going to share with you what's on my Creative Living bookshelf. I just love creating this series, especially because I know we creatives, we love our books. And so we always have so many books on the go, right? And I love being able to share with you what has caught my eye. And I hope that there'll be something in here that will capture your curiosity, your imagination, and that will support you in developing your creative life. So the first book I want to share with you is A Year of Daily Joy, a guided journal to creating happiness every day with Jennifer Louden. Now, Jen has recently been a guest on Creative Living with Jamie, my podcast. I had such a good time talking to her about what it means to create daily joy and why it's important. One of the beautiful things about this book is that it is a journal, and there's room for you to write your thoughts in it, plus really beautiful photos, inspiring quotes, and prompts from Jen. And Jen is just a master at prompting your self-awareness as well as your writing. So this gives you a great place to start and to start getting in touch with what would inspire more daily joy in your life. So I thought that together we would look at what she is suggesting for today. So here it is. I love this. Express love every chance you get. So if this is the one thing you take away from this whole Creative Living bookshelf, this idea of expressing love every chance you get, then I will be delighted. So here's what Jen has to say about expressing love every chance you get. Whether it's going back in the house even when you're late to kiss your special someone goodbye, writing a quick "I love you because" email, telling your friend why you appreciate her, or complimenting a stranger in the grocery store, why not make a vow to show the world more love going forward? Where might you begin? So there is a great prompt for you to start with today. Where might you begin showing the world more love? And that's just the way Jen is. So thank you, Jen, for sharing this way of creating a year of daily joy. This book just came to my attention very recently. It was like slid in just under the wire of me creating this episode of Creative Living Bookshelf. Make It Mighty Ugly. Exercises and advice for getting creative even when it ain't pretty. A handbook for vanquishing creative demons by Kim Piper Worker. Mighty Ugly just grabbed me, and I think it spoke to me especially because the art form that I have always found the most intimidating is the visual arts. And a couple of years ago, to try to help myself get through that, I decided to create a series of 100 crappy paintings. So I think there was just this immediate resonance and understanding of this place of mighty ugly. So let me share with you how Kim is defining ugliness, because she says she's doing so both literally and metaphorically. Ugly is the blanket term for the vital parts of creativity, and I think it's important to look at that, the vital parts, things we actually do need. They are a part of this process of creativity that we like to pretend don't exist, like fear of failure or judgment, block, perfectionism, procrastination, self-doubt. Anyone recognize those? By the end of this book, I hope you'll be far more intimately acquainted with the ugly parts of your creative life. That intimacy is what will set you free. Doesn't that sound brave? I think it's brave. And I love one of the things that she shared about why she likes to create and engage with Mighty Ugly. I make ugly things on purpose. I do it because I'm afraid to make ugly things not on purpose. I do it because I'm a self-saboteur. I do it when I'm stuck. I do it because I'm a big old fraud. Don't get me wrong, I don't only make ugly things. I usually try hard to make any other kind of thing, really. Making ugly things on purpose helps me do that, though. It helps me feel unencumbered and able to go where my imagination wants to take me. It helps me feel comfortable taking risks and it helps me muster the confidence to try to make the not ugly things. So I love her writing style. It's simple and engaging, and I feel like she's sitting here having a conversation with us. And the things that she's talking about, I think, are powerful and important and mighty. So if this speaks to you, be sure to pick up a copy of Mighty Ugly. And speaking of mighty, I'm also reading Playing Big, Find Your Voice, Your Mission, Your Message by Tara Moore. And Tara is also a guest on the Creative Living with Jamie podcast in an upcoming episode. And we talked about playing big, about what supports us in doing so and what gets in our way. And when I was reading the book, I loved this conversation that she had with her dance teacher, because I'm going to share with you what her dance teacher said about why women in particular, why we play small. And I think it gets to the crux of what playing big and creativity have to do with one another. It's a failure of imagination. If people haven't been taught how to use their creativity, how to imagine, then they can't create a dramatically different reality than what they know today, because they can't imagine it. And so this is why it's so important to awaken our creative hearts, to understand and learn and grow our creative capacity. Because then what we can imagine for ourselves, what we can imagine for each other, what we can imagine for the world opens up. And so much wonder is available. So I hope that inspires you to think about that. So let me tell you a little bit about this fear concept, because I think it really opens up those possibilities. And a lot of times as a coach, one of the things I see people trying to discern is when fear comes up, is that calling me out to step in and play big, or is it pushing me away because this is actually dangerous? And I think there's a clue. So Tara talks about two different kinds of fear as they're defined in the Hebrew Bible. And one is the kind of fear we recognize, that fight or flight response, that, oh, I think there's danger here. And so we repel from what it is. And the other is called yirah. And here is what it is. See if you recognize the flavor of this. This kind of fear has three different meanings. It's the feeling that overcomes us when we inhabit a larger space than we're used to. It's the feeling that we experience when we suddenly come into possession of considerably more energy than we had before. It's what we feel in the presence of the divine. So do you hear how that kind of fear is asking us to play big? So if that kind of feeling of being drawn to playing big, of being tired of playing small, of trying to figure out why, especially we as women, why we do that, if that is really of interest to you, then check out Tara's Playing Big. I'm also going to share with you that I got this hefty book. David Bush's Canon EOS Rebel T5i 700D. And this was recommended to me by Kath, who is a viewer, because she knew I got a Rebel for my birthday and I find it profoundly intimidating. In fact, 2 months in, still all that I know how to do is turn it on and change the date. And that's about it. And Kath wrote to me later and she said, you know, they have online manuals, and so maybe you don't need to have this book. But I am going to say that I'm really glad that I bought it. In part because, I don't know if you're like this, but I spend enough time on the computer. And the idea of taking in this much information in a PDF, that seems overwhelming to me. Instead, I like to tuck in maybe in this chair and start looking at it lesson by lesson. And one of the things I like about this so far, now I've just started, is that it's extensive. It holds every little bit of information and takes you through step by step. And as a real beginner, taking my time with each step and engaging with the camera really helps. So Kath, thank you for the suggestion. If anyone else is stepping into the world of the DSLR, in particular the Rebel, maybe this will help you too. One of the gorgeous things about books to me is that they hold so much learning, that there's so much possibility that that David Bush can take me from being afraid of my camera to using my camera by the words that he's written. That's very exciting to me. And especially for those of us who are at the very beginning of something, because sometimes that can be really intimidating and something we really kind of want to start tackling in the privacy of our own little safe space. Now I want to share with you, okay, I am so crazy about this book that I have already been talking about it all the time. I'm talking about it on Facebook. I'm talking about it on the Behind the Scenes syllabus by Lynda Barry, Notes from an Accidental Professor. Now, this book is designed so it looks like a composition book. Inside as well, it is results of composition book creating, which is a part of when Lynda Barry taught a series of classes. One of the assignments she gave her students was to fill 3 composition books with anything, with content from the class, with drawings, with notes from other courses. And one of the things she was trying to get at is the nature of our creativity, the nature of our relationship to images and to writing. And I have both devoured and savored this book. I have read it intensely, but also I'm kind of trying to read it slowly because I love it so much I don't want it to end. And I know this book is not for everybody. It is not a linear book. It is an exploration, and it is interesting to look at, and every page gives me something to think about. And this was one of my big ones that I enjoyed thinking about. She said, there's a drawing you're trying to make, and the drawing that is actually being made. And you can't see it until you forget what you were trying to do. That was like an aha light bulb moment for me. Have you ever had that where you've created something and you think it's awful, but you keep it, you leave it, you forget about it, and then 6 months later you look at it, whether it's something you wrote or something you drew or painted, and then you go, oh, actually, that's not so bad. And so when she positioned it in that place of, that's because in that moment it is not fulfilling your expectation, but that doesn't mean it isn't something wonderful. Right? So these are the kind of things where I would read like one little sentence and then I would be off. One of the other things she suggested I think is a really cool thing to try, and actually has inspired me to do a lot more work with grids in my journals, is she had her students using what she called a basic quick diary format. So on each page of your composition book, you would divide it into 4, 2 big sections and 2 small sections. In one, you would write out 7 to 10 things that you did that day. And the other 7 to 10 things that you saw that day. And then for 30 seconds, you'd write about what you heard, something you'd overheard. And then you draw a picture. What a gorgeous way of capturing moments, of capturing the day, of creating a bit of pool of things you can draw from to create other things. I found it fascinating. Another question she asked here that I love was, what is a bad drawing? And then a little addendum to that, how old do you have to be to make a bad drawing? Yeah, that just stops and makes me think. I actually can't say enough good about this book, but I do have a bit of a proviso that some people find the format and the sketchiness and the sort of disparate ideas not for them. So take a look at it, see if it speaks to you. It has opened up my creative mind, and so I love it, and I am excited to share it with you. It also inspired me to go out and buy a whole bunch of composition notebooks and to really think about how they might work for me in my creative life. And lastly, I want to share with you The Art of Whimsical Lettering by Joanne Sharp. Joanne is also going to be a guest on an upcoming episode of the Creative Living Bookshelf. And I've been playing with lettering a fair amount recently, and so I wanted something that would open up the possibilities. The first time I encountered her was in a class in Lifebook. And one of the things she said was, hey, if lettering is going to be a part of your art, take some time to be a learner about it. Grab yourself, again, a composition notebook and practice and play and learn and let it be fun and unintimidating instead of just going straight to the canvas and being all nervous about it. And one of the things I love about this book is she gives you about a bazillion ways that you can do just that. It's a colorful book filled with different lettering approaches that you can try, which is really one of my favorite things about it, because if you watch the show Start that I do with my two sisters, one of the things, I share this all the time, that one of the ways my creativity works is if I get excited about something, I want to do it about 1,000,000 times. And so with this, you know, she'll have a suggestion like, try a white correction pen to letter a quote in thick, bold white lines over brightly colored marker backgrounds. So that would be a wonderful thing to do, page after page after page after page, to see, what's that look like? Do I like how it feels? Do I like it on different colors? What kind of quotes? How do I space them? And that becomes so much fun to me. Or colorfully illustrate a phrase or a quote with markers on an upcycled book paper page. You could do that right now. You could just go and grab a book that's on its way out or that you haven't read for a long time, pick one up at a secondhand store, pull out a page and write all over it with a marker and see how that feels. Do you like it? I love the exploratory nature of this book. And I also love that one of the things that Joanne is really about is you developing your own signature handwriting style. What is it? How do you make shapes? And I think writing and letters is something most of us have been doing for years and years and years. So what a beautiful in to discovering the shapes you love, the colors you love, because you're starting with something already wildly familiar, like the letter A. So that is my selections for this Creative Living bookshelf. These are the books that I'm reading right now, and I hope there is something in there that grabbed you, something that speaks to your creative heart, and something that brings your creativity to life. Thank you so much for joining me here at Jamie Ridler Studios. Be sure to stop on by the studio at openthedoor.ca and become a member so you never miss out on an episode like this. Keep reading and keep creating.